Hello and welcome to the Fawley site on behalf of ExxonMobil and our contractor companies. ExxonMobil believe in nobody gets hurt, meaning that everyone finishes their working day the same as they started it, safely. The nobody gets hurt belief is based on the fact that we believe that all accidents are avoidable and preventable. Working safely and protecting the environment are the most important things here at Fawley. We mean what we say. We expect everyone to maintain the highest standards and follow our site rules, which are designed to keep you safe. Because everybody's safety is so important to us, we cannot tolerate failure to meet these standards and rules. This induction will explain our key requirements and will help you to meet our expectations. Please concentrate on what we tell you and respect our advice. When you work at Fawley, we hold you accountable for doing your job safely, but also you're accountable for the safety of the people you work with and anyone who comes into your work area. We will help you to work safely and you'll be recognised for good performance, but we will tell you if you do something wrong. We want to make sure you don't have an incident or injury. For this reason, you'll be accompanied on site by an experienced person until your supervisor decides you have demonstrated that you can work safely on your own. To help you with this, your company will have a specific graduation plan for your work. In order to identify you as a new-to-site or vulnerable person, you'll be identified with either wearing an orange helmet, pass lanyard or hat sticker. Fawley uses the Loss Prevention System, or LPS for short. This behavioural-based safety system is used in most ExxonMobil sites worldwide. LPS comprises key tools used in order to prevent incidents and injuries and to share all losses and near losses. The first key tool of LPS is the Loss Prevention Self-Assessment, or LPSA. This is a continuous mental risk assessment process where you assess the risk, what's the worst that can happen, analyse how to reduce the risk, and act to make sure you've mitigated all hazards. We call this the 3 A's. We are committed to creating a positive, supportive work environment for our employees and contractors that is free from any form of harassment. We want a site where discrimination does not happen and where everyone is respected and valued. A site where we recruit and engage both employees and contractors from different backgrounds, and we value diversity of thought. We are all responsible, open and talk about this topic and will call out any unacceptable behaviours. Harassment of any form is unacceptable and won't be tolerated. We hold everyone accountable to these commitments and everyone is proud of the working culture at Fawley. Following this video, we will confirm your understanding with a simple written test and issue you with a personal site pass. Make sure you carry your pass wherever you go on site. If you follow our rules and procedures, which are the same for everyone on site, you should never be injured at Fawley. You must report any failure to follow the rules to your supervisor, irrespective of the people involved. The circumstances surrounding the rules breach will be investigated to establish the root cause and to put in place a solution that prevents reoccurrence. If an individual has willfully ignored an important site rule which they were fully aware of, then it's likely that disciplinary action will be taken. As part of this induction, you'll all be given a copy of the Fawley Site Induction Handbook. This is to remind you of the most important requirements and the location of safety facilities throughout the site. Carry this book with you at all times for your reference. In the area of safety, the most important rules are referred to as life-saving rules. We fully acknowledge these 4 rules may go further than other places you may have worked at, but we make no apology for this. As new-to-site people, you're expected to understand and follow these without question. You must adhere to these 100% of the time. Because experience has shown that not following these rules can have serious safety consequences and even lead to loss of life, failure to follow these rules can result in significant discipline up to and including exclusion from our site. The life-saving rules are summarised as follows. Follow fall protection on procedures including 100% tie-off. Follow work permit procedures. Follow hazardous energy control procedures. Do not defeat safety-critical devices without proper authorisation. Let me explain each one in detail. Follow fall protection procedures. You must follow fall protection procedures, including 100% tie-off. For example, if exposed to a fall of more than 2 metres, if you are 2 metres off the ground and not on a permanent complete platform or green-tagged scaffold deck, if the risk assessment for the job requires fall protection to be worn below 2 metres. The only exception to this is when using ladders and stairs. Remember, you don't necessarily need to climb on a structure to be exposed to a fall. Some excavations can be well over 2 metres. Follow work permit procedures. Work only with a valid work permit on jobs that require a permit. You must also complete all required gas tests before issuing or receiving a work permit. Complete a joint job site visit to verify permit information when required. And remember, entry into a confined space requires a valid entry permit, appropriate ventilation, monitoring of the space, and a hole watch. Follow hazardous energy control procedures. Conduct maintenance on equipment only when all hazardous energy sources are isolated and the equipment is verified to be de-energized. Never remove or tamper with hazardous energy control devices, the locks, tags and the devices they are securing without proper authorization. Opening process equipment requires that the equipment is properly cleared, isolated and de-energized, and that personnel wear the proper PPE. Do not defeat safety-critical devices without proper authorization. Safety-critical devices and equipment must not be interfered with, removed or bypassed without the correct authorization and mitigation in place. Remember, these systems are designed to protect workers from dangerous situations occurring on the site or on equipment. Let me repeat, because experience has shown that not following these life-saving rules can have serious safety consequences and even lead to loss of life. Failure to follow these rules can result in significant discipline up to and including exclusion from our site. There are other key site rules you need to follow. Failure to follow them could also lead to your exclusion from the site. Do not possess or consume alcoholic beverages, prohibited drugs or other intoxicants, or be under their influence whilst on site, and do not bring these substances onto site. You must comply with your company's alcohol and drugs policy. If your company suspects you've not complied with this policy, or you're involved in an incident on the site, you'll be required to undergo an alcohol and drugs test. The site limit for alcohol in a blood sample is half the legal limit for driving on the public road. Do not smoke other than in designated smoking shelters identified by smoking permitted signs. Vapor cigarettes, or e-cigarettes as they're known, are not permitted anywhere on the site. Do not bring firearms, unauthorized explosives or weapons on site. Do not indulge in horseplay, fighting or malicious damage. You will face disciplinary proceedings if you do. Do not bring matches or lighters for smoking into the site. There are lighters in the designated smoking shelters. Always carry your personal site pass with you. You'll need it to enter and exit the site. Do not let anyone else into a restricted part of the site or let them use your pass to gain access to the site. Passes are individually awarded after the induction and are not transferable. Please cooperate with security if they ask to search your vehicle. To drive on site, you must have a current driving licence for the class of vehicle you're driving and be authorised to do so. Our site is large and we require you to drive with care and attention. You're required to report any road traffic incident and always drive defensively. Always wear your seatbelt and always drive with dipped headlights. You must have the correct site vehicle pass to take your vehicle into areas of the site. Passes are colour-coded: red for restricted process areas, yellow for controlled areas, white site commuting passes, and green for gate link driving. Car park passes are also required for using the off-site and on-site parking areas. You must never drive into an operating area without the correct pass or permit. You must always follow the highway code, obey speed limits. Remember that conditions may require you to travel slower than the limits allow. Reverse park wherever practical and never leave your engine running whilst unattended. There have been a number of road traffic incidents on site, and as such the challenge is for us all to maintain the highest standards when driving. Always shut off your engine or machinery if the plant gas alarm sounds in your location. Never use mobile phones, radios or other electronic devices whilst driving in refinery areas. Do not use mobile phones at all, except within designated areas of site buildings. The wearing of light eye protection in all areas of the site is mandatory. This applies anywhere inside the fence line, including non-operational areas, for example car parks. If you cycle, you must wear bright clothing and ensure your cycle is in a roadworthy condition. You must display front and rear lights in conditions of darkness or poor visibility. It is mandatory to wear a cycling helmet or safety helmet with a chin strap when cycling on site. This includes when riding a bicycle for work use. We encourage you to carry out your loss prevention self-assessment prior to cycling on site. Always respect barriers and road signs, whether you're a driver, motorcyclist, cyclist or pedestrian. Remember, at Forley, stop really means stop, so fully stop at road junctions and crossings where there's a stop sign and continuous line on the junction. The minimum personal protective equipment in operating areas are flame retardant anti-static overalls or coveralls, safety boots, a belt for extra safety and monitoring equipment if required, safety spectacles, a safety helmet, extra eye protection goggles if required, and gloves. Goggles must be carried at all times when on the site as an upgrade to glasses if conditions dictate, for example high winds or dusty conditions. In most areas you'll also require an H2S monitor and escape respirator. You must sign in and out or use your swipe card for this purpose when entering and leaving operating blocks. These registers will be checked to make sure you are safe in the event of an emergency. You must wear a minimum of single hearing protection in all plant operating areas and other areas where indicated by signs where noise exceeds 85 decibels, and that is earplugs or earmuffs. For noise exceeding 95 decibels, where indicated by signs and the noise maps in permit offices, you must wear double hearing protection, that is earplugs and earmuffs. When you finish with your earplugs, they are to be disposed of in the appropriate waste container, not on the ground. A red line indicates an area where corrosive caustic or acid substances are present. If you enter that area, even if only passing through, you must wear goggles and appropriate chemical-resistant gloves or gauntlets. Asbestos is present in many operating areas in the form of insulation, gaskets, cladding and tape. We've been progressively resealing and marking asbestos insulation with the word asbestos in big red letters. You may also see asbestos warning signs on the entrance to spaces containing asbestos. You must not disturb asbestos materials. If you're unsure if asbestos is present, check with the control room. If you discover exposed asbestos or aren't sure about a substance you may think is asbestos, report it to the area owner or your supervisor to get it properly assessed and dealt with. There are many hazardous and toxic substances on the Forley site process units. You must follow your company COSH assessments and procedures and the requirements of your permit to work to minimise the risks of exposure to these substances. If you need to wear respiratory protective equipment, you must be trained to use it and you must undergo a fit test to ensure that it seals against your face. Carry an H2S respirator and display a personal H2S monitor on your lapel or on the side or front of your helmet if you're in a location designated as an H2S block or within blue lines where hydrogen sulfide is present. The monitor will alarm at 5 parts per million H2S in air that is below the occupational exposure limit. If it alarms, don your respirator and evacuate. It'll be necessary to periodically test and calibrate your H2S monitor or bump test it. Stations for bump testing are situated in most permit offices, control rooms and admin buildings. Instructions for their use are posted next to the machine. On the butyl polymers unit, the halogen gases chlorine and bromine are present. These gases are highly toxic. The halogen alarm is a single-tone, foghorn type sound which requires evacuation to one of 4 muster points. If you hear the halogen alarm when outside, you must immediately don your H2S respirator and evacuate to a designated muster point. If you're in a building, it may be necessary to close all the windows and remain in the building. As on all units, check with the specific block emergency procedures. All refinery units have their own short induction and you must attend before starting work. The purpose is to give you more information about the specific hazards you may encounter. These blocks have distinct alarms to indicate the presence of gas or another emergency. When using your radio, ensure that you maintain appropriate radio etiquette and refrain from any horseplay over the airwaves. The Fawley site is subject to the Control of Major Accident Hazards regulations, commonly referred to as COMAR regs. As required by these regulations, we have prepared updated safety reports detailing the measures we take to prevent and control accidents of all kinds. If a major incident occurs, a special COMAR alarm will be sounded if there's a danger to the public. It has a distinctive sound like this. The all clear is like this. The individual blocks all have their own distinctive alarms. Ensure that you familiarise yourself with the particular alarm for the block on which you are working and the location of all the safety amenities such as emergency telephones and safety showers. In an emergency, it is essential that the emergency response is initiated immediately. This can be done by using the plant emergency telephones, by dialing 1 or 9 on the internal SLX phones, or by radio. Begin your message with the words urgent, urgent, urgent. If your personal HUS monitor alarm, the block alarm or COMAR alarm sounds, immediately stop work, use your respirator and go across wind as indicated by the block windsock to an evacuation assembly point. Remain at your assembly point until further instructions. Do not leave the muster point until the all clear message is given. You should expect to have a daily job start discussion with your supervisor or their nominated stand-in each day. You are to actively participate in this safety discussion as it is our expectation of you. Fawley uses the Loss Prevention System, or LPS. This system is being put in place in every ExxonMobil site worldwide because the sites that have it are seeing fewer incidents, not only in the area of safety, but also environment, property damage and product quality. LPS is a behaviour-based system that is simple and logical. It values the knowledge and experience of craftspeople as the job experts, and as such has a strong bottom-up element. Everyone on Fawley site is LPS trained. To prevent injuries and incidents, every supervisor has been trained in the fundamentals of LPS. Supervisors and managers from ExxonMobil and contractors will visit you when you are working and discuss with you the precautions you have taken to prevent you or others getting hurt. They will help to coach you to recognise and consider all of the potential hazards and then put in place steps to ensure they don't lead to an incident or injury. We call this a touch. A key part of LPS is the Loss Prevention Self-Assessment, or LPSA. This is a continuous mental risk assessment process, and you'll be trained in this by your company before going on site. You may, through your working day, be asked to share your LPSA with a colleague, supervisor or manager. The touch is a key safety communication tool in the field, or even offices. This is important because it's our best way of making sure that a safe system of work is understood and followed. If your work team is visited, please share your loss prevention self-assessment during the touch and share any other job or safety-related information. Remember, sharing could save someone having an incident or injury. At Fawley, every task is risk assessed to ensure that it's safe to be carried out. For higher risk or more complex tasks, there may be a task risk assessment written for the work. The task risk assessment uses a process to mitigate any risks to low before the work starts. The task risk assessment should be read and understood by all work team members. Changes can only be made after authorization by ExxonMobil engineers. You should remain focused during your task and consider any new hazards should they arise. If you cannot do your task safely for any reason or unsure about any aspect, stop work and consult your supervisor or safety advisor. A clean and tidy work area is a strong barrier to avoid workplace accidents. We call this good housekeeping. In order for you to keep your work area clear, please store items neatly in rigid boxes or containers, not loose on platforms. When working at height, never store loose tools and materials where they can become dislodged. Tie off any tools with lanyards that you may be using, even from a low height. They can cause a serious injury if dropped. It is important to avoid tripping hazards through good housekeeping. Always correctly segregate and dispose of waste in one of the following correct waste containers: paper and cardboard, wood, metal, oily waste, including oil-contaminated gloves, other general waste. For all tasks you are participating in, understanding for the environment is to be considered during both planning and execution, and as such, appropriate solutions are to be put in place to protect the environment at all times. Should things go wrong and you're hurt, no matter how minor the injury, you must report it to your supervisor and go to the site first aid on South Avenue between 9th and 10th Street. This will ensure that you obtain prompt assessment and treatment. You should also report any near losses to your supervisor and together fill out a simple form which will enable the root cause to be identified and appropriate matching solutions put in place to prevent the near loss becoming a loss for the next person. We regard these as sharings for everyone, and so that the whole site can benefit from your experience. If you're expected to work at the Fawley Marine Terminal, there are a number of additional controls in place for your safety and security. Because the Marine Terminal is like a ferry port or airport, by law we have to implement security measures to control access of people and goods. To access the Marine Terminal, you'll require additional security checks beyond those for the rest of the site, and have a restricted access pass. Whilst the rules for working at the Marine Terminal are no different than anywhere else within the Fawley site, it does, however, have its own specific hazards and procedures which you'll need to adhere to. Particular care must be paid when using walkways, ladders and gangways, as they are slippery due to the nature of the marine environment. All lines at the Marine Terminal are live, containing either hydrocarbon or utility products such as steam and nitrogen. As parking is very limited at the Marine Terminal, you're required to check with the Marine Terminal Permit Coordinator prior to bringing a vehicle onto the terminal. When at the Marine Terminal, if you're working within 1 metre of the edge of the berth front, then you're required to wear a life jacket at all times. The Marine Terminal is located within an environmentally sensitive area designated as a Site of Specific Scientific Interest, SSSI. The information that you have just seen and heard will give you a good understanding of the priorities we place on safety, security, health and the environment. Remember, what happened to Charlie Moorcroft can happen here at Fawley. We welcome you to work at the Fawley site with a clear expectation that you will work safely at all times. In summary, we do not want you to be involved in an incident. We do not want you to be injured. We do not want you to injure anyone else, and we want you to go home safely. If there's any aspect of this induction or the site rules that you don't understand or require more clarification on, please talk to your supervisor. Thank you for listening and keeping our site safe.